Can we have some of your fries, sir? The single mom said, unaware she was speaking to a billionaire. Welcome to TrueSoul Narratives, where every story carries a heartbeat. Love, betrayal, kindness, forgiveness, and the courage to start again. Before we start, comment below and let us know where you are watching from. Enjoy the story. You can't stay here if you're not ordering. The manager's voice cut through the fast food restaurant like a blade. Chen stood frozen, her two children pressed against her legs. Tommy, 7 years old, trying not to cry. Sophie, barely 4, already sobbing. We just need 10 more minutes, Iris begged, her voice shaking. Please. The manager crossed his arms. Order something or get out. In the corner booth, a man in an expensive suit watched the scene unfold, his laptop open. His plate full of fries he hadn't touched. 3 hours later, he'd hand Iris keys that would change everything. But first, she had to do the hardest thing she'd ever done. She had to ask a stranger for help. Iris took a breath, wiped her eyes, and walked toward his table. Let me tell you how a single mother living in her car ended up face-to-face with a billionaire over a plate of fries. Chen was 31 years old and she was drowning. 18 months ago, her husband died in a construction accident. Scaffold collapse. Gone in an instant. She tried to hold on, worked 2 jobs, kept the apartment, kept the kids fed, kept pretending everything would be okay. But the life insurance payout was smaller than expected. Medical bills ate through their savings. Rent kept climbing. 3 months ago, the eviction notice came. She had nowhere to go, no family nearby, friends who'd slowly disappeared when things got hard. So Iris and her kids moved into her car, a 10-year-old sedan with a broken heater and seats that didn't fold flat. She'd been managing, barely, working as a cleaner at an office building, night shifts so the kids could sleep in the car in a safe parking lot. It wasn't much, but it was something, until last week when her supervisor accused her of stealing. A missing laptop, security footage that supposedly showed her near the office. It didn't matter that Iris had never stolen anything in her life. Didn't matter that she'd passed every background check. The laptop was gone. She was the cleaner. She was expendable. Fired on the spot. No final paycheck. No references. Nothing. Now she had $8 to her name. $8 in a car that needed gas to get to a job interview tomorrow morning. Her last chance. A front desk position at a hotel downtown. The kind of job that could mean stability, benefits, a path back to normal life. But her kids hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Tommy had stopped complaining about being hungry around noon. That's when Iris knew it was bad. 7-year-old boys don't stop asking for food unless they've learned that asking hurts their mother more than the hunger hurts them. Sophie was too young to understand. She just cried. Soft, tired crying that broke Iris every time she heard it. They'd pulled into this fast food restaurant an hour ago, not to eat. They couldn't afford to eat, but the bathroom was warm. The lights were bright. It felt safe. Iris had washed the kids' faces in the sink, combed Sophie's hair with her fingers, let them sit in a booth while she tried to figure out what to do next. That's when the manager noticed. You need to order something. His voice was firm. Not mean exactly, but not kind either. Just enforcing the rules. Iris had nodded, said they would, but she didn't move toward the counter. Couldn't, because ordering something meant spending money she didn't have. The manager came back 10 minutes later. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to order or leave. Other customers are complaining. Iris looked around. The restaurant was nearly empty. 2 teenagers in one corner, an elderly couple by the window, and a man in a business suit at a corner table working on his laptop. No one was complaining. The manager was lying, but he had the power. She didn't. Sophie's stomach growled, loud enough that the manager heard it. The little girl's face went red with embarrassment. Tommy reached over and took his sister's hand. It's okay, Sophie. We're not that hungry. But they were. God, they were starving. Iris felt something crack inside her chest. She'd failed them. Failed as a mother, failed as a provider, failed as a human being. Her babies were hungry and she couldn't feed them. The manager's voice got harder. I'm going to have to ask you to leave now. If you don't, I'll call the police." The word police made both kids flinch. They'd learned fear early, learned that police meant trouble. That trouble meant losing the little stability they had left. Iris stood up, her legs shaking. "Okay, we're going." She reached for her kid's hands, but then she saw him, the man at the corner table. He'd been there when they arrived. Expensive charcoal suit, silver watch that probably cost more than Iris had made in a year. Hair graying at the temples, maybe mid-40s, handsome in a weathered way. But what caught her attention wasn't his appearance. It was his food. A tray sat in front of him. Large fries, barely touched, maybe 3 fries missing from the pile. He wasn't eating, just staring at his laptop screen. But his eyes weren't moving. He wasn't reading. He was watching her family, watching the scene unfold. And on his face was an expression Iris couldn't quite read. Not pity, not disgust, something else. Recognition, maybe. Like he'd seen this before. Like he understood. Iris made a decision. The kind of decision that required swallowing every ounce of pride she had left. The kind that made her want to throw up. But her kids were hungry. And that man had food he wasn't eating. She took a step toward his table, then another. Tommy called after her. "Mom?" She didn't respond, couldn't trust her voice. The man looked up as she approached. His eyes were kind. That made it worse somehow. "Excuse me," Iris said. Her voice came out as a whisper. She cleared her throat. Tried again. "Sir, I'm so sorry to bother you." He closed his laptop, gave her his full attention. "It's no bother." Up close, she could see the quality of his suit, the way it fit perfectly, the Italian leather shoes. This was a man who'd never missed a meal in his life. This was a man who couldn't possibly understand. But she was out of options. "Can we have some of your fries?" The words came out in a rush, humiliating, desperate. "My kids, they haven't eaten. I'll pay you back someday, I promise. I just need." She couldn't finish. The tears were coming and she couldn't stop them. The man didn't hesitate, didn't ask questions, didn't make her explain or beg or prove she deserved help. He just pushed the entire tray toward her. "Please, take it all." Then he stood up, walked to the counter. The manager started to say something. The man pulled out a black credit card, the kind Iris had only seen in movies. "I'm buying meals for this family, everything on the menu, if they want it." The manager's entire demeanor changed. "Of course, sir. Right away. What would you like to order?" The man turned to Iris. "What do your kids like?" She couldn't speak, could barely breathe. He ordered for them. Burgers, more fries, chicken nuggets, drinks, even dessert. The manager rushed to fulfill the order, suddenly very attentive, very helpful. The man paid. Didn't even look at the total, just handed over the card like it was nothing. When the food came, he carried the tray to Iris's table himself, set it down in front of Tommy and Sophie. Their eyes went wide. They looked at their mother for permission. She nodded, unable to speak. Both kids dove in, eating like they'd never seen food before, because they were starving, because their mother had failed to feed them for 24 hours. Iris sat down slowly, picked up a fry, put it in her mouth. It tasted like salt and shame and salvation all at once. The man went back to his table, opened his laptop again, pretended to work. But Iris saw him watching, saw the way his jaw tightened when Tommy gave half his burger to Sophie, saw the way he blinked rapidly when Iris barely ate, pushing most of her food toward her kids. He saw them, really saw them, and for the first time in 18 months, Iris didn't feel completely alone. Have you ever had to ask a stranger for help when you had nothing left? Drop a comment and share your story. And if you believe in the power of human kindness, subscribe to TrueSoul Narratives for more stories that restore your faith in humanity. The man stood up, walked over to their table. "Do you mind if I sit?" Iris tensed, suspicious now, waiting for the catch. There was always a catch, but she nodded. He sat across from her, held out his hand. "My name's Carson." She shook it. "Iris," he smiled. It was genuine, warm, not the smile of someone doing charity, the smile of someone who understood. Where are you headed tonight, Iris? She hesitated, thought about lying, but she was too tired for lies. We're between places right now. He nodded slowly. You're living in your car. It wasn't a question. She felt the shame burn her face. Yes. Carson leaned back. His expression didn't change. No judgment, no pity, just understanding. I lived in my car once for almost a year. Iris looked up, startled. You? He nodded. Long time ago. But yeah, I remember what it feels like. Carson started talking, not the way people usually talk to Iris, not with that careful, pitying tone that made her feel like a charity case. He talked like they were equals, like her situation didn't define her worth. I grew up in foster care, he said, looking at his coffee cup instead of her framed ways. Bounced around homes until I aged out at 18. No family, no support system, just me and a backpack full of everything I owned. Iris listened, really listened. I had a job at a warehouse, minimum wage. But the hours got cut and I couldn't make rent. He laughed, but it was sad. I was too proud to go to a shelter. Thought I could figure it out on my own. So I lived in my car, a Honda Civic with 200,000 miles on it. She saw something shift in his eyes. Memory, winter was the worst. I'd come to this restaurant, this exact one with whatever spare change I had. Order one small fries, make it last 2 hours while I sat in the warmth. He looked around the restaurant like he was seeing ghosts. The manager back then knew what I was doing, never said anything. Just let me sit. Iris felt tears building again. How long? Almost a year. Until I got a break. A real break. Someone took a chance on me. Gave me an opportunity I didn't think I deserved. He met her eyes. That's why I'm sitting here now, because I remember what it feels like to be invisible. To be one bad day away from losing everything. To watch people look right through you like you don't exist. Carson leaned forward slightly. What's your situation, Iris? If you want to tell me. She did. Don't know why, but she did. Maybe because he'd shared first. Maybe because she was too tired to keep pretending. Maybe because something about him made her feel safe. My husband died 18 months ago. Construction accident. We'd been together since high school. He was my whole world. Her voice cracked. Him and the kids. She wiped her eyes roughly. I tried to keep going. Kept working. Kept paying bills. But it was like trying to hold water in my hands. Everything just kept slipping through. 3 months ago, we lost our apartment. I've been working night shift cleaning jobs so the kids can sleep in the car. But last week I got fired. Her anger flared briefly. They said I stole a laptop, security footage that supposedly showed me near the office where it went missing. But I didn't take it. I've never stolen anything in my life. Carson nodded, didn't question her, didn't ask for proof, just believed her. That simple act of trust made Iris's throat tighten. Now I've got $8, a job interview tomorrow morning at the Grandview Hotel downtown. Front desk position. It's my last shot at getting us back on our feet. She looked at her kids, still eating, savoring every bite. If I don't get that job, I don't know what we're going to do. Carson was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that surprised her. What time's your interview? 9 a.m. He nodded slowly. And you need gas money to get there. That's why you haven't been eating. You're saving that $8 for gas. She looked down, ashamed. Yeah. Carson pulled out his phone, started typing something. Iris tensed. What are you doing? He looked up. Making sure you get to that interview. She shook her head quickly. No, I can't take money from you. You've already done too much. He put his phone down. Iris, I'm not offering money. I'm offering a chance. There's a difference. She didn't understand. Carson took a breath. That hotel you're interviewing at? The Grandview? Iris nodded. I own it. Her world tilted. What? I own the Grandview and about 40 other hotels across the country. Iris stared at him, really looked at him, saw past the kindness to the power underneath. You're Carson Blake. He smiled slightly. Guilty. Oh my God! She stood up abruptly. I can't. I thought you were just... She grabbed her kids' hands. We need to go. Carson stood too. Please don't, Iris. Listen to me. But she was already backing away, panic rising. I don't need charity. I don't need some billionaire feeling sorry for me because I had to beg for fries. I need to do this on my own. Her voice was rising. People in the restaurant were staring. Tommy and Sophie looked scared, confused. Carson's voice stayed calm. I understand. I do. This isn't about charity. She laughed bitterly. Isn't it? You own the hotel I'm interviewing at. What? You're going to give me the job because you feel bad for me? That's exactly charity. He shook his head. No. You're going to that interview tomorrow. You're going to interview with my HR director who has no idea we had this conversation. You're going to be judged on your qualifications, your experience, your interview performance, just like every other candidate. Iris stopped moving. Then why tell me you own it? Because I want you to know something. He stepped closer, but not too close. Respected her space. I don't invest in businesses because they're profitable. I invest in people because they were fighters. And you, Iris, are clearly a fighter. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But life had taught her that help always came with strings. What do you want from me? Nothing. He said it so simply, so honestly. I want to give you what someone once gave me. A fair shot. A chance to prove what you're capable of. That's all. She looked at her kids. Tommy was holding Sophie's hand, both of them watching their mother with wide eyes, trusting her to make the right choice. Iris looked back at Carson. I can't accept special treatment. I won't. Good, he smiled, because I'm not offering any. But I am offering something else. He pulled a key card from his wallet, held it out. There's a suite at the Grandview, room 1247. It's scheduled for renovation, needs to be occupied for insurance purposes. Iris stared at the card. That's not true, is it? He smiled. No, it's not. But it's a kind lie. She didn't take the card. Carson set it on the table between them. Your kids need a safe place to sleep tonight, a real bed, a warm room, a shower. He kept his voice gentle. You need to be rested for that interview tomorrow. Let me help with this one thing. Not because you owe me, not because I pity you, because 30 years ago, someone let me sleep on their couch when I had nowhere to go. And that one night of safety gave me the strength to keep fighting. Iris felt her resolve crumbling, her pride screaming no, her exhaustion screaming yes. She looked at Sophie, whose eyes were already drooping, at Tommy, trying so hard to be brave. What if I don't get the job tomorrow? Then you don't get it. Carson shrugged. But at least your kids will have had one good night's sleep, and you'll know you tried. Iris reached out slowly, her hands shaking, picked up the key card. It felt heavy, like it held more weight than just plastic. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded. Interviews at 9. HR director's name is Patricia Chen. Coincidentally, also Chen. She might ask if you are related. You're not. Iris almost smiled. What do I say about the suite? Say a friend helped you out. It's the truth. She looked at him. This whole thing, you being here at this exact restaurant, at this exact time, that's quite a coincidence. Carson picked up his laptop, started packing it away. I come here once a month, always have. Even after everything changed. This place reminds me where I started. Keeps me grounded. Today just happened to be that day. He headed for the door, stopped, turned back. Iris, she looked up. You're going to be okay. You and your kids. I can see it. You've got what it takes. She nodded, unable to speak. Carson walked out into the night, leaving Iris standing there with a keycard in her hand and hope blooming in her chest for the first time in months. Tommy tugged her sleeve. Mom, are we really going to a hotel? She looked down at her children, at their faces, still smudged with ketchup, but smiling. Yeah, baby, we are. Sophie clapped her hands. With real beds? With real beds. Iris picked up the remaining food, carefully wrapped it. Every bite was precious. They walked to the car, drove to the Grandview Hotel. The valet looked at their beat-up sedan with barely concealed disdain, until Iris showed him the key card for Suite 1247. His attitude changed instantly. The suite was beautiful. More beautiful than anywhere Iris had lived even before everything fell apart. 2 bedrooms, a living room, a bathroom with a tub big enough for both kids. Tommy and Sophie ran around touching everything, amazed by the luxury. Mom, there's chocolates on the pillows. Mom, the TV is huge. Mom, look at this. Iris stood in the doorway, watching them, remembering what it felt like when they had a home, when they felt safe, when being a kid meant playing, not surviving. She thought about Carson Blake, about the man who'd shared his fries and his story and his chance, about how one moment of kindness could change everything. That night, she gave her kids a bath, washed their hair with expensive hotel shampoo, put them in the big bed with clean white sheets, read them a story using the hotel directory because it was the only book available. They fell asleep within minutes, finally safe, finally warm, finally fed. Were stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. Tomorrow she had an interview, a real shot at stability, at building a life again. She didn't know if she'd get it, didn't know if this was the beginning of something better, or just one good night in a long string of bad ones. But for the first time in months, she let herself hope. And that, she realized, was Carson Blake's real gift. Not the food, not the sweet, the hope. The belief that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't fighting alone anymore. She set her alarm for 7 a.m., laid out her best clothes, wrinkled but clean. And when she finally closed her eyes for the first time in 18 months, Iris Chen slept without fear. The next morning, Iris woke at 6:30, before her alarm, heart pounding with nerves and hope mixed together. She showered, put on her interview clothes, a black blazer she'd bought from a thrift store 2 years ago, gray slacks that were starting to fray at the hem, modest heels that pinched her toes but looked professional. She stared at herself in the mirror, saw the dark circles under her eyes that even hotel sleep couldn't erase, the worry lines that had carved themselves into her face over 18 months. But she also saw determination. She was going to nail this interview. Not because Carson Blake owned the hotel, but because she needed this, because her kids deserved stability, because she was done being invisible. Tommy and Sophie ate breakfast from room service. Carson had arranged it, left a note saying the meal was already paid for. Iris had cried reading that note. The kids devoured pancakes and fruit and orange juice like it was Christmas morning. "Mom, can we stay here forever?" Sophie asked, syrup on her chin. Iris kissed her daughter's head. "We'll see, baby." She left them with the hotel's childcare service. Another thing Carson had arranged. Felt guilty leaving them even for 2 hours. But they were safe, fed, happy. That was more than she'd been able to give them in months. At 8:55, Iris walked into the hotel's administrative offices. Asked for Patricia Chen. The receptionist smiled professionally. "She's expecting you. Have a seat." Iris sat, hands folded in her lap to keep them from shaking. At exactly 9 a.m., a woman in her 40s emerged from an office. Professional, no nonsense. Patricia Chen. She shook Iris's hand firmly. "Thank you for coming. Let's talk in my office." The interview lasted 45 minutes. Patricia asked tough questions about customer service experience, how she'd handle difficult guests, her availability, her long-term goals. Iris answered honestly, drew on her years of cleaning bars, of dealing with demanding people, of staying calm under pressure. She didn't mention Carson Blake, didn't mention the suite, didn't mention anything that would make this anything other than a fair shot. Patricia took notes, asked follow-up questions, gave nothing away with her expression. At the end, she set down her pen. "Iris, I'm going to be honest with you. This position gets a lot of applicants. People with hospitality degrees, years of front desk experience." Iris's heart sank. She knew what was coming. "But your answers showed something I can't teach. Genuine care for people. The ability to see past the surface, to understand that every guest has a story." Patricia smiled. "I'd like to offer you the position." Iris couldn't breathe. "What?" "The front desk position. Starting salary is $42,000. Full benefits. Health insurance starts day one, paid time off. And we have an employee assistance program that includes housing support for those who need it. Tears flooded Iris's eyes. I got it? You got it. Iris wanted to ask if Carson had influenced the decision. Wanted to know if this was real or orchestrated, but Patricia's face showed nothing but professional respect. When can you start? Monday, Iris said, her voice steady despite the emotions. Perfect, Patricia stood, extended her hand again. Welcome to the Grandview team. Iris shook it, feeling like she was shaking hands with her future, with stability, with hope. She left the office in a daze, walked through the hotel lobby, seeing it with new eyes. This was where she'd work. This was her chance. She picked up her kids from childcare. They were playing with blocks, laughing, looking like normal kids instead of scared, hungry ones. Did you get the job, Mommy? Tommy asked. She nodded, unable to speak. Just pulled them both into a hug and held on tight. That afternoon, Iris tried to return the key card to the front desk. The clerk looked confused. Ma'am, Mr. Blake left instructions. The suite is yours for 2 weeks, gives you time to find permanent housing. Our employee assistance program can help with that. Iris stood there, overwhelmed. He'd thought of everything, not just the job, not just one night of safety, but a bridge, time to rebuild. She took the kids back to the suite, let them play while she made calls, to the employee assistance program, to housing agencies, to social services to get the help she'd been too proud to ask for before. By evening, she had leads on affordable apartments, application appointments, a path forward. She tried to find Carson Blake to thank him properly, but he'd already left town, back to San Francisco. The front desk had no forwarding information, so Iris wrote him a letter, poured her heart onto paper, thanked him for seeing her, for treating her with dignity, for giving her not a handout but a hand up. She mailed it to his corporate office. Didn't know if he'd ever read it, but she needed to say it anyway. The 2 weeks in the suite turned into a month in a modest 2-bedroom apartment through the hotel's housing program. The front desk job turned into assistant manager within 6 months. Iris was good at it, really good. She understood guests because she'd been on the other side, knew what it meant to be desperate, to need kindness, to want to be seen as human. She made sure every staff member under her treated every guest with dignity, no matter what they looked like, no matter what they could afford. Tommy joined the local soccer team, made friends, started smiling again. Sophie enrolled in a good preschool. Her nightmares about sleeping in the car faded. Slowly, painstakingly, Iris rebuilt their life. But she never forgot the taste of shame when she asked for those fries. Never forgot the weight of that key card in her hand. Never forgot that Carson Blake had saved her family not with money, but with respect. One Saturday, 6 months after that night in the restaurant, Iris took her kids back there. The same fast food place. It looked exactly the same. Different manager now. She ordered food, sat in a booth with Tommy and Sophie, and watched, waited. After an hour, she saw them. A young couple, maybe early 20s, a baby in the woman's arms. They sat in a booth without ordering. Just sitting, trying to get warm. The new manager started walking toward them. Iris stood up. Beat him there. Excuse me, she said to the couple, her voice gentle. Are you hungry? The woman looked up, eyes wide with fear and shame. We're just resting. We'll leave. Iris shook her head. I'm buying you dinner, whatever you want. The man started to protest. We can't. Yes, you can. Iris smiled. Someone did this for me once. Now I'm doing it for you. She ordered them food, lots of it, sat with them while they ate, asked gentle questions, found out they'd been evicted, living in a shelter, just got jobs but waiting for first paycheck. Iris pulled out her phone, called the hotel, spoke to the manager on duty. I need an employee referral, 2 positions, housekeeping. Can we interview them Monday? She got them interviews, helped them apply for the housing assistance program, gave them her number, told them to call if they needed anything. The couple cried, thanked her over and over. She just smiled. Pay it forward someday. That became her mission. Every month, Iris went back to that restaurant, bought meals for families who looked like she once did, started a program at the hotel, Hired people from difficult situations, single parents, people with gaps in their resumes, those who just needed a chance. She trained them herself, gave them the same opportunity Carson had given her. Within a year, she'd hired 12 people, all of them thriving, all of them paying it forward in their own ways. 1 year after that night with the fries, Carson Blake came back to town. Another acquisition. He stopped by the Grandview to check on things. The general manager gave him a tour, showed him improved customer satisfaction scores, better employee retention. We have this amazing assistant manager, the GM said, Chen. She's transformed our culture, created programs that are being replicated across all our properties. Carson smiled. I'd like to meet her. They found Iris in the employee break room. She was helping a new hire fill out tax forms, explaining benefits. When she looked up and saw Carson, she froze. Mr. Blake. He smiled. It's Carson. Remember? She stood, walked over, and without hesitation hugged him. Thank you. She whispered it. But he heard. He hugged her back. You did this, not me. They pulled apart. Iris wiped her eyes. I got your letter, Carson said. I wanted to respond, but I thought maybe you needed space to do this on your own. She nodded. I did, but I also needed to tell you what you gave me wasn't just a job. It was my dignity back. They talked for an hour. She showed him the programs she'd created, the people she'd hired. The lives changed. Carson listened with pride. This is exactly what I hoped would happen, that you'd see what I saw, that helping people isn't about money. It's about seeing them. She smiled. I learned from the best. That afternoon, they went back to the restaurant, the one where it all started, sat in the same booth. Iris brought a plate of fries to the table. Remember these? They laughed, shared them like old friends. Tommy and Sophie were there too, doing homework in the next booth, happy, healthy, thriving. Carson watched them, then looked at Iris. You've done something incredible. She shook her head. You started it. He leaned back. No, I just reminded you of what you already were. A fighter, a survivor, someone who never gives up. Iris looked around the restaurant, at the families eating, at the workers behind the counter, at the life humming around them. I come here every week now, buy meals for people who need them. Some of them I help find jobs. Some just need food and kindness. But every time I do it, I think of you. Carson smiled. That's all I ever wanted, for you to pass it on. She met his eyes. I'll spend the rest of my life passing it on, because one plate of fries changed everything for us. He reached across the table, squeezed her hand. It wasn't the fries, Iris. It was you. Your courage to ask, your strength to accept help, your determination to rebuild. I just held the door open. You're the one who walked through. They sat there as the sun set outside. Two people whose lives had intersected at exactly the right moment. One who remembered what it meant to have nothing. One who was learning how to have everything again. And between them, a legacy of kindness passed forward, of dignity restored, of lives changed one meal, one chance, one moment of human connection at a time. Because that's what Carson Blake had really given Iris Chen that night. Not charity, not pity, not even opportunity, exactly. He'd given her what she'd lost, the belief that she mattered, that her story wasn't over, that one bad chapter didn't define the whole book. And now she was writing new chapters, for herself, for her kids, for 12 employees who'd gotten second chances, for countless families who'd been fed when they were hungry. All because one man saw a woman at her lowest moment and chose to see her humanity instead of her circumstances. All because he remembered his own story and wanted to change someone else's. All because a plate of fries became a symbol of hope, of connection, of the truth that we're never as alone as we feel. That help, real help, doesn't diminish us. It reminds us of our worth, and that the greatest wealth isn't measured in money. It's measured in lives touched, in kindness given, in moments when one human being looks at another and says, without words, I see you, you matter. You're going to be okay. That was Carson's gift. And now it was Iris's mission to pass it forward one person at a time, one meal at a time, one chance at a time, forever. Have you ever been helped by a stranger when you had nothing? Or have you been the one to help someone in their darkest moment? Share your story in the comments below. And if you believe one act of kindness can change everything, subscribe to TrueSoul Narratives for more stories that prove humanity is worth believing in. 2 years after that first plate of fries, the restaurant looked different. Carson had bought it, renovated it, but not into something unrecognizable. He'd kept the booths, kept the counter, kept the soul of the place. But now it was more than a fast food joint. It was a community center, half restaurant, half resource hub, free meals for anyone who needed them. No questions asked, job training programs, housing assistance, all running out of this place where Carson Blake had once split an order of fries for dinner when he had nowhere else to go. Where Chen had swallowed her pride and asked a stranger for help. The place where everything changed. Iris walked in on a Saturday afternoon, Tommy and Sophie with her. Both kids had homework spread across the table. Tommy was in 4th grade now, on the honor roll. Sophie was in 1st grade, reading above her level. They were thriving, happy, secure, everything Iris had fought for. She walked to the counter, ordered a large fries. When they handed her the tray, she smiled, carried it to the corner booth. The same booth where Carson had sat that night 2 years ago. He was already there, waiting. They'd made this a tradition, once a month, meeting at this restaurant, sharing fries, talking about the lives they'd changed, the ripples they'd created. Remember these? Iris set the tray between them. Carson laughed. How could I forget? They ate in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Iris pulled out her phone, showed him photos. This is Maria, single mom, 3 kids. I hired her 6 months ago. She's training to be a front desk supervisor now. She swiped to the next photo. This is David, was homeless for 2 years. Now he's in our maintenance department, saved enough for his own apartment. Another swipe. This is Jennifer, escaping domestic violence, no work history. I started her in housekeeping. She just got accepted to community college, studying hotel management. Carson looked at each photo, pride evident on his face. How many now? Iris smiled. 17, across 3 hotel locations. All of them people others had written off. All of them proving everyone wrong. He reached across the table, took her hand. You've built something incredible, Iris. She shook her head. We built it. You started this. He squeezed her hand. No, I gave you 1 night of help. You turned it into a movement. She pulled out another folder, showed him the numbers. The employee retention rates at hotels using her hiring model. The customer satisfaction scores. The way communities around these hotels were changing because people who'd been invisible were suddenly employed, contributing, thriving. Corporate wants to expand this to all 48 properties, she said. They're calling it the Second Chance Initiative. Carson leaned back, impressed. That's a lot of people. A lot of lives changed. She met his eyes. All because you saw me that night. Really saw me. Not a charity case, not a failure, just a person who needed help. He shook his head. I saw a fighter who'd been knocked down. That's different. You would have gotten back up eventually. I just maybe made it happen a little faster. She laughed. Carson, I was living in my car with $8 to my name. I was one bad day from losing my kids to the system. You didn't speed up the inevitable. You changed the trajectory completely. He was quiet for a moment. Then he told her something he had never shared. You know why I was at this restaurant that night? She shook her head. It was the anniversary of the day I aged out of foster care. 27 years exactly. I always come here on that day to remember, to stay grounded, to remind myself that success doesn't mean forgetting where you started. Iris felt tears building. So us meeting that night, that wasn't random coincidence. It was fate, Carson said simply, or luck, or the universe deciding we both needed each other in that moment. Because I'd been feeling disconnected from my why I built the business, why any of it mattered. And then I saw you and your kids and I remembered. She wiped her eyes. You gave me my life back. And you gave me my purpose back. They sat there. Two people whose lives had intersected at exactly the right moment, who'd saved each other in different ways. Across the restaurant, Tommy looked up from his homework. Mom, I'm done. Can I get ice cream? Iris smiled. Sure, baby. Sophie immediately chimed in. Me too. Carson pulled out his wallet. My treat. The kids ran to the counter. Excited, normal, safe. That's what this is really about, Iris said, watching us home. Not the programs or the statistics or the corporate initiatives. It's about kids like mine getting to be kids, not worrying where their next meal comes from, not sleeping in cars, not watching their mother break apart trying to hold everything together. Carson nodded. And it's about people like you getting the chance to show what they're capable of. You were always capable, Iris. You just needed someone to open the door. She turned back to him. So that's what I do now. Open doors for everyone who reminds me of me, everyone who just needs one person to believe in them. He smiled. That's the legacy, not hotels or money or business success. People, lives changed, futures rewritten. She raised her cup of soda to paying it forward. He clinked his cup against hers. Forever. As the sun set outside, the restaurant filled with families, some paying, some getting free meals. No one could tell the difference. That was intentional. Dignity built into every design choice. Tommy and Sophie came back with their ice cream, sat next to their mom, sticky and happy. Mr. Blake, Tommy said, mouthful of chocolate. My mom says you're the reason we have our apartment. Carson glanced at Iris. She just smiled. He looked at Tommy. Your mom's the reason you have your apartment. I just introduced her to the right people. Sophie tugged Carson's sleeve. Are you like a superhero? He laughed. No, sweetheart. I'm just someone who remembers what it's like to need help. Tommy thought about that. Then we should help people too, when we grow up. Iris felt her heart swell. Yes, baby, that's exactly what we should do. Carson stood to leave, had a flight to catch. But before he left, he turned back to Iris. One more thing. He handed her an envelope. She opened it. Inside was a check made out to the Second Chance Initiative. The amount made her gasp. Carson, this is... I know. He smiled. Fund it properly, hire more people, change more lives. She stared at the check, then at him. Why do you keep doing this? Because 30 years ago, someone gave me a chance when I had nothing. And I promised myself that if I ever made it, I'd spend the rest of my life doing the same for others. He put his hand on her shoulder. You're helping me keep that promise, Iris, so thank you. She stood, hugged him tightly. Thank you for seeing me. Always, he said, always. That night, Iris tucked her kids into their beds, in their apartment, with full bellies and clean clothes and homework completed, and dreams of futures that felt possible. She stood in their doorway, watching them sleep, thinking about how close they'd come to losing everything. How one moment of courage, asking a stranger for fries, had changed the entire trajectory of their lives. She thought about the 17 people she'd hired, the hundreds more who'd been fed through the restaurant program, the families who'd found housing assistance, the kids who got to stay kids instead of growing up too fast in the backseats of cars. All of it connected, all of it rippling out from one act of kindness, one man who chose to see humanity instead of circumstance, one woman who chose to accept help and then pay it forward, one plate of fries that became a symbol of hope. Sometimes we think changing the world requires grand gestures, millions of dollars, power and influence. But Carson Blake had taught Iris something more important. Changing the world starts with seeing one person, really seeing them, with treating them like they matter, with giving them not charity, but dignity, with opening doors and then trusting them to walk through, with remembering your own story and using it to rewrite someone else's. That's the power we all have, every single one of us. The power to look at someone in their darkest moment and choose to be their light, not because we have to, not because we'll get credit, but because we remember. We remember what it felt like to be alone, to be invisible, to be one bad day from losing everything. And we decide that if we can help, we will. Carson Blake was a billionaire, but that's not what made him extraordinary. What made him extraordinary was that he never forgot the boy who lived in his car, who split one order of fries for dinner, who needed someone to believe in him. He carried that boy with him into every boardroom, every business decision, every interaction. And when he saw Iris and her kids that night, hungry and desperate, he didn't see strangers. He saw himself. That's what changed everything. Not his wealth, his memory. His willingness to stay connected to his pain instead of running from it, to use his past to inform his present, to turn his struggle into someone else's salvation. And now Iris was doing the same, seeing herself in every person who walked through the door with nothing but hope and determination, seeing her kids in every child whose stomach growled from hunger, using her story to rewrite theirs. The ripples keep spreading. The 17 people Iris hired are now helping others. The families fed at the restaurant are paying it forward in their own ways. The program is expanding to new cities, new hotels, new lives. All of it traced back to one moment, one question. Can we have some of your fries, sir? That question, asked in desperation and humiliation, became the beginning of everything, a reminder that we're all connected, that your story and my story and everyone's story are woven together, that when we lift someone up, we lift ourselves. That kindness isn't weakness. It's the strongest force in the world, strong enough to change lives, to rebuild families, to create legacies that outlast us. So here's the question. Who will you see today? Really see? Who will you help? Not because they deserve it or earned it, but because you remember what it felt like to need help. Because you know that circumstances don't define character. Because you believe in second chances, in fresh starts, in the possibility that anyone, given the right opportunity, can rise. You don't need to be a billionaire to change a life. You just need to be willing to see people, to share what you have, whether that's fries or time or opportunities, or simply your belief that they matter. That's what Carson gave Iris. Not money, not a job, belief. The belief that she was more than her worst moment, that her story wasn't over, that she had something valuable to offer the world. And now she's giving that same belief to others. One person at a time, one chance at a time, one act of kindness at a time, creating ripples that will spread long after she's gone. That's the legacy. That's what matters. Not what we achieve for ourselves, but what we make possible for others. Not what we accumulate, but what we give away. Not the empires we build, but the lives we touch. Carson Blake will be remembered for many things: his business success, his wealth, his influence. But his real legacy is Iris, and the 17 people she hired, and the hundreds they'll help, and the thousands those hundreds will impact. An endless chain of kindness, all starting with fries.